A softness echoed in the darkness. Then silence again. Dr. Serafini Vale opened her eyes slowly. The light was gone. Only blackness surrounded her. Her body ached. Her lips were dry. Her chest felt heavy, like something was sitting on it. The air was thin, cold. She was lying on a hard metal floor. The soft blinking of a red emergency light above gave her a glimpse of her surroundings. Pipes, panels, a broken console. She blinked again. Her mind was foggy. Where am I? Her memories came back in flashes. She remembered the war cruiser Aegis Ravager. She was the lead engineer. The ship had been hit during a deep space skirmish. Something had exploded near the reactor room. And then nothing. Serafini pushed herself up slowly. Her hands trembled. She reached for the nearby support beam and stood with effort. Sparks danced from a torn cable above her head. The air smelled of burnt circuits and oil. Hello? She called out, her voice rough. No answer. She looked around. The engine bay was damaged. Crates were scattered. Toolkits were open. Some wires hung, like vines from the ceiling. The main terminal was offline. Monitors were cracked. Only a small auxiliary panel blinked weakly. She limped toward the panel. Her legs were stiff. As she walked, she noticed something else. There were no bodies, no signs of her crew. Just emptiness. Serafini tapped the panel and waited. It flickered. Then a single line appeared. Life support, 12% remaining. Crew, absent. Location, drifting. She stared at the words. Her heart sank. They left her. They abandoned her. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Not yet. Her mind shifted to survival. That's what she was trained for. That's what humans did survive. She moved to the corner, opened a damaged toolbox, and pulled out a flashlight. It flickered but worked. With it, she made her way to the lower deck, hoping to reach the secondary power systems. The hallway was dark and narrow. Pieces of the wall were torn away. She passed the crew quarters empty. Lockers were open. Beds unused, personal belongings gone. They had left in a hurry. She reached the power station. The doors were jammed. She pried them open with a metal rod. Inside, the room buzzed softly. Some lights were on. The backup battery still held a small charge. Serafini smiled for the first time. It was small, but it meant something. She got to work. She pulled off her jacket, rolled up her sleeves, and opened the main battery panel. The wires were burnt. Some fuses were melted, but she could fix it. She just needed time, and she didn't have much. Oxygen left, 8%, the panel warned an hour later. She took short breaths and kept her hands steady. She removed a broken capacitor and replaced it with one from the life support unit. It would weaken the air filters, but it would bring power back faster. The lights blinked once. Then again, a low hum passed through the floor. Auxiliary systems, online. Environmental stabilization, active. Air began to flow. Weak, but clean. She fell back against the wall and breathed deeply. For now, she would live. Later, she found a ration box in one of the storage rooms. Dry protein bars and water packs, enough for 3 days. It wasn't much, but it would do. She ate slowly, her mind still racing. Why would they leave her? She accessed the ship's logs next. The main system was locked, but the engineer's override still worked. She typed in her code. Log access granted. Last entry, 17 hours ago. She opened the recording. The screen showed the command bridge. Captain Aldrin was shouting at someone. We don't have time. If she's not back, we go without her. Someone off-screen said, she might still be alive. She's not my priority, the captain snapped. We have the package. We move now. Serafini stared at the screen, her jaw tight. They had chosen to leave her. Not by accident, not by force. On purpose. She sat in silence for a while, letting the anger settle in her chest. She wasn't just left behind. She was sacrificed. But she wasn't dead. Not yet. She stood up slowly. Her muscles hurt, but her mind was clear now. If they thought, I'd just fade away in the dark, she said to herself, they don't know me. She looked at the control board. If she could fix the main power relay, she could get the ship's engines online. Maybe not fully, but enough to move, enough to chase them. Scifi reached for her tools again. There would be no distress beacon, no crying for help, no begging for rescue. They had left her to die. Now, she would plot a course and follow them into the stars. The war cruiser Aegis Ravager was silent again, but this time, Scifi was not weak. She had air to breathe, light to see, and a purpose in her heart. She stood in the center of the engine bay, staring at the main fusion core. It was the heart of the ship, and it was still dead. If I bring this back online, she whispered to herself, I can move the ship. I can find them. But the core was not easy to repair. Parts were damaged. Cables were torn. Control links were corrupted. Still, she had something no one else had. She had time. And she had anger. Scifi started by checking the fuel injectors. She opened the side panel and looked inside. Dust, melted seals. One of the regulators had exploded. She would need to replace it. She went to the storage bay on deck 2. It was dark and cold. Her flashlight flickered. She walked slowly, scanning every crate. Many were empty, looted during the evacuation. But in the back, behind some broken shelves, she found what she needed, a spare regulator. Old, but working. She smiled again. Hey, small victory. Back at the core. She carefully removed the broken part and slid the new one into place. She checked the fuses, the power rods, and the coolant system. Hours passed. Her fingers were sore. Her back hurt. But when she pushed the startup button, something amazing happened. The lights above her flickered. A loud hum filled the room. Blue light began to glow inside the fusion chamber. The screen flashed. Fusion core. Warming up. Estimated power. 32%. It was not full strength. But it was enough. Enough to move. Enough to fly. She climbed up to the command deck next. The door was half jammed, so she forced it open using a metal bar. The bridge was dusty, and screens were cracked, but most systems were still connected to backup lines. She sat in the captain's chair. It felt strange. She was never meant to sit there. She had always worked behind the scenes, fixing engines, upgrading circuits, saving others. But no one else was left. She touched the console. Welcome, Engineer Scifi. Command protocol, limited access. She typed fast. She rerouted the ship's systems to engineering controls. She didn't need weapons yet, just thrusters, engines, navigation. The ship replied, primary engines, available, gravity drive, limited, maneuvering thrusters, online. She was ready to fly. Before starting the engines, she needed to know where to go. She checked the ship's long-range scanner. It was weak, but still active. She saw no friendly signals, no Terran cruisers, no Allied stations. But then she noticed something strange, a small beacon signal. It was far, just at the edge of scanner range, a Zarkith relay drone. Her eyes narrowed. Zarkith drones only appeared near patrol zones or ship routes. If one was out there, someone was moving. Maybe even the same group that had abandoned her. She remembered the final log from Captain Aldrin. We have the package. We move now. Package? Was it data? A device or something worse? She saved the drone's location and plotted a course. Scifi stood in the center of the bridge and activated the engines. The ship rumbled beneath her boots. Lights turned on across the ceiling. The fusion core pumped energy into the hull. Control panels glowed blue and green. The Aegis Ravager was not a ghost anymore. It was awake. And so was she. For the next few days, Scifi worked nonstop. She fixed broken power conduits. She repaired the life support grid. She reconnected the food replicator using spare circuit boards from the drone bay. Slowly, the ship became livable again. Each night, she sat in the old officer's lounge, eating protein stew and reading logs. She learned the truth. The package was an experimental device, a Zarkith Terran hybrid AI core. It had been installed secretly. The crew had no idea. Only the captain and his inner circle knew. And Scifi, she had been kept in the dark because she was honest, loyal, and curious. They had feared she would find out. So when things went wrong, she was the one they left behind. She stared out the lounge window, watching the stars drift by. The ship was moving now slowly, but surely toward the drone signal, toward the ones who betrayed her. She wasn't angry anymore. She was focused. One morning, as she finished rerouting control to the engineering bay, the ship's sensors beeped. Signal detected. ID, Zarketh Relay 45. Distance, 0.50. She had found it. The drone was small, barely larger than a pod, but it held logs, records, coordinates. She locked onto it and sent a remote pulse. The drone responded with a burst of data, encrypted, but she knew how to crack it. 3 hours later, she had a new target, location, Dust Sector Ring 9 ship ID. Glory's End, command, Captain Aldrin was still alive and close. She sat in the captain's chair again. The new course appeared on the screen. It was time to go. Time to end what they had started. The war cruiser Aegis Ravager floated through deep space like a ghost from the past. Inside, Scifi Vale stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the glowing map before her. A single red dot blinked slowly. Captain Aldrin's new ship. Glory's End. They were in Dust Sector Ring 9, hiding among old asteroid fields and black clouds of space debris. It was a place where broken fleets were forgotten, a place full of shadows. Scifi zoomed in on the map. The distance wasn't far now, 2 days at full speed. But her ship wasn't battle-ready. Not yet. I need weapons, she whispered. I need defense. Scifi went to the ship's weapons control room. It was located deep inside Deck 4, past the old torpedo storage area. The hallway was dark and cold. Dust covered the walls. She coughed softly as she moved aside a broken hatch. The room was a mess. Wires dangled like spider webs. Many weapons were offline. The missile launcher bay was empty, but she found something that gave her hope. For rail cannons, old but strong. She ran diagnostics. Rail cannons, 2 operational ammunition, low 1-3 rounds. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. She tightened the connectors, replaced burnt cables, and rerouted power from non-critical systems. The lights flickered above her, but the cannon systems came online with a loud hum. Next, she checked the ship's shield grid. It was broken in 4 places. Most shield coils had burned out during the attack that left the ship dead. But Scifi had learned to adapt. She pulled coils from the gravity stabilizers and redirected energy through the outer plating. It was not a true shield, but it would absorb a few hits enough to escape or strike first. She tested it. A low blue glow appeared around the ship's hull. Weak, flickering, but there, she smiled. Good enough. The next day, Scifi sat in the engineering bay. Her hands were covered in grease. Her arms ached. She had worked almost non-stop for 6 hours. But she finally had control over the fusion boosters. Now she had speed. Now she had power. And she had a plan. Before entering Ring 9, she slowed the ship. The stars outside looked darker now. Hidden behind space dust, she shut off non-essential lights and powered down the ship's beacon. She was now invisible to enemy radar. She opened her notes, checking the old military records of the sector. Ring 9 was once a battle zone. Hundreds of ships had died there during the war with the Zarketh. Wreckage still floated in the area. Perfect for hiding. Scifi reached the outer edge of the ring after 40 minutes. The scanners picked up floating metal, broken ships, and asteroid fragments. In the center of it all was Glory's End, the ship. Looked newer than Aegis Ravager, but not stronger. It had Zarketh modification sharp fins, strange glowing vents, and alien tech welded onto human metal. It was quiet, hidden, and clearly not expecting visitors. Scifi watched from a distance. She whispered to herself, "You're not ready for me." She used the asteroids as cover and brought her ship closer. The Ravager moved slowly, hiding in the debris. Scifi checked the comms. There was chatter from Glory's End. Short messages, calm voices. They were at rest. She typed the quick code into the weapons panel. The rail cannons turned slowly, targeting the side engines of Glory's End. Let's see if you still run without these. She pressed fire. The rail cannons launched a heavy rounds. They shot across space like silent lightning. Both slammed into the enemy ship's side. Sparks burst. Flames erupted. One engine exploded in a cloud of metal and smoke. Panic on her screen. Enemy systems lit up. Their shields turned on. Alarms began to sound across their radio. Serafini smiled. I'm awake now, she said. She fired again. 2 more rounds. One missed. The other struck a weapons bay. More fire. More damage. Glory's end turned slowly, trying to face her. A weak plasma beam shot from its side, but missed. Its scanners were still confused. They didn't know where. She was exactly. She turned off her engines, drifted behind a broken freighter ship, silent. Invisible. The enemy fired blindly into the dark. Serafini waited. They would waste power. They always did. She opened the comms and sent one short message. You left me. I rebuilt what you broke. Now I'm returning the favor. Captain Aldrin's voice replied a minute later. Calm, cold. Serafini, I knew you'd survive. You were too stubborn to die. She didn't reply. Instead, she powered up the engines and moved to flank his ship. She had one goal left: disable him, not destroy. She wanted him to know what it felt like to be helpless, broken, forgotten. Her ship roared as she came out from hiding. The rail cannons fired again, this time into the main bridge tower. The tower cracked, the glass shattered. A hole ripped through the top deck. Glory's end stopped moving. No more weapons fired. No more words. Only silence. Serafini watched the enemy ship float, powerless. Fires burned in its hull. Lights went out one by one. She opened her comms again. You have one chance. Send escape pods now. I won't fire on them. No answer. Then, one by one, small pods ejected from the ship. She let them go. She wasn't a killer, just forgotten. And now remembered. She looked at the enemy ship one last time, then turned her cruiser toward the stars. There were more traitors, more secrets. But now they would all know Serafini Vale was alive, and her war had just begun. The stars drifted slowly around the Aegis Ravager as Serafini Vale sat alone on the command deck. The lights were dim, the engines silent. Only the soft hum of life support filled the space. Glory's end was dead in the distance, floating like a wounded beast. Its fires had gone out. The escape pods were long gone, sent drifting into the black. She had not destroyed it completely, but she had taken its pride. She stared at the cracked screen in front of her. A new signal blinked, an internal alert from her own systems. Something she hadn't seen before. I-Core detected status, locked location, engine room deep vault 07. Serafini raised an eyebrow. AI core? She whispered. Why would an AI be on this ship? She leaned back in the chair, thinking. Then it hit her. The package. The one Captain Aldrin mentioned before he left her behind. She stood up quickly and headed down to the engine room. The path to Vault 07 was hidden. She had never seen it on the old ship plans. It was located behind a false wall, just below the main fusion chamber. It took her 20 minutes to cut through a sealed panel and override a forgotten access code. Inside, the room was cold and metallic. Rows of blinking blue lights lined the walls. In the center sat a black cube connected by thick cables. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Serafini stepped closer. Zarkith Terran AI Core. Model ECH-09 status. Dormant reactivation possible. Warning. Unknown intelligence B of your Serafine stared at the warning. Alien tech. Human systems. Fused into one device. The last time humans worked with Zarkith tech, things had gone wrong. But this AI had been left here, hidden, silent, forgotten like her. She placed her hand on the cube and whispered, "Let's wake you up." She returned to the control deck and rerouted emergency power to the AI chamber. Lights flickered as electricity surged into the vault. Then, a voice echoed through the ship, a calm, soft voice, not male, not female. Designation, Echo 9. Active, identity scan, Engineer Serafini Vale. Authority level, accepted. Serafini leaned forward. You can talk. Yes, The voice replied. I was waiting. They did not wake me. They were afraid. Afraid of what? Of what I might learn. Of what I might remember. Scifi sat quietly. She didn't trust machines easily. But she had no one else. No crew. No allies. Just a dead ship, old weapons. And now this AI. Can you help me? She asked. Yes, Echo 9 said. You gave me life. I give you knowledge. The screens around her lit up. Maps, data, logs, all encrypted Zarkith files. She blinked. This is enemy intel. Yes, the AI replied, stolen from their network. It contains fleet movements, secret alliances, and their long plan. Scifi scanned the files. Her eyes widened. There was a list of human defectors' names, of officers who had joined the Zarkith silently, selling secrets, trading weapons. Aldrin was one of many, but there was something worse. A location, a hidden Zarkith facility deep in the nebula zone called Vortex Reach. It was where the hybrid project had started, where more AI cores were being built, and where a new kind of weapon part machine, part mind was being developed. They planned to replace us, Echo 9 said. Not with machines, with puppets. Scifi stood up. Her fists were tight. They left me behind because I knew too much. Yes, Echo 9 said. And now you know even more. She walked slowly toward the ship's main screen. The map zoomed in on Vortex Reach. It was surrounded by black clouds and radiation. Dangerous. Hidden? I'm going there, she said. You may not survive. The AI replied. I didn't survive before, she answered. I rebuilt myself. Over the next hours, Scifi and Echo 9 worked together. She rewired systems while the AI unlocked old Zarkith protocols. Together, they improved the ship. The Aegis Ravager was no longer just a human war cruiser. It was becoming something new. She replaced broken relays with alien energy cores. Echo 9 rewrote navigation systems to pass through nebulous storms. They linked her voice with weapons control. The ship would now listen to her like a living being. As she worked, the AI spoke again. I've seen your memories, Scifi. I watched when they betrayed you. She stopped. You watched. I was awake before, hidden, listening. You cried in the dark, but you did not stop. That is rare. Scifi looked at the nearest screen. Her reflection stared back, tired. Scarred, but alive. I don't want revenge, she whispered. I want truth. And you will find it, Echo 9 replied. 2 days later, the ship was ready. The engines glowed brighter than before. The new power cores thrummed with energy. The weapons were tuned. The hull was reinforced. Echo 9 had even improved the ships. Sensors they could now see through Zarkith stealth fields. Scifi stood in the center of the bridge. Plot a course to Vortex Reach. Course locked, the AI said. Estimated arrival, 36 hours. As the ship turned toward the dark nebula, Scifi stared into the void. This was no longer just about Aldrin. This was about everyone who thought she was weak, everyone who thought they could bury the truth. She had been left behind, but now she was the future. The Aegis Ravager glided into the black nebula called Vortex Reach. Thick clouds of gas and glowing particles surrounded the ship. The stars outside were dim, swallowed by the swirling colors. It was like flying through a dream or a trap. Scifi. Vale stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the rail. Her heart beat steady. But inside she felt the old rush of danger. Echo 9's soft voice broke the silence. Sensors detect multiple ships ahead. Zarkith patrol vessels. They are scanning for intruders. Scifi nodded. We must be careful. They won't let us get close without a fight. The ship slowed, slipping quietly through the nebulas. Shadows. The patrol ships were small and fast, like deadly insects buzzing around a hive. Their bright light swept over the nebula, searching for any sign of the Aegis Ravager. Scifi held her breath as the sensors showed the patrols drawing. Nearer, the rail cannons hummed, ready. The weak shield flickered in response to the patrol ship's scanning beams. Echo 9's voice was calm but firm. I recommend evasive maneuvers. Use the nebula's interference to hide. Scifi smiled faintly. You learn fast. The Aegis Ravager twisted and turned through the dense clouds. dodging beams and bursts of energy. The patrols fired blindly, but the ship stayed hidden behind rock formations and gas pockets. After tense minutes, the patrols gave up. Their signals faded. The way ahead was clear, for now. Scifi exhaled slowly. Good, but we are not safe yet. Vortex Reach hides many secrets, and many dangers. Echo 9 flickered a small warning on the main screen. The Zarkov facility is close. Approximately 50 kilometers. Energy readings suggest heavy defenses. Scifi looked out at the swirling colors. I never thought I'd see this place. So many lives lost here. The nebula had been a battlefield during the war. Ships had been destroyed and left to drift forever. But the Zarkov had built their new base right in its heart. Hidden and protected, the Aegis Ravager moved deeper into the nebula. Sensors scanned carefully, detecting faint energy shields and patrol drones. Scifi guided the ship towards a narrow opening between two giant asteroids. The path was dangerous, but offered a chance to get close without being spotted suddenly. A sharp alarm sounded. Warning, incoming drone detected. Scifi spun round to the weapons panel, fired the rail cannons. Two heavy bolts shot from the ship's sides, striking the drone. It exploded in a shower of sparks. Good shot, Echo 9 said. But more may come. Scifi nodded, eyes sharp. We have to move fast. Finally, after hours of careful flying, the base came into view. It was massive, a floating fortress of metal and light. Huge towers rose from the surface of an asteroid. Energy barriers surrounded the entire complex. Fighters patrolled the skies like angry birds. Scifi felt a cold thrill of fear and excitement. This was the place where the Zarkov were building their new weapons, the place where the hybrid AI cores were created. She tapped the comms button. Echo 9, do you see any weak points in their defenses? The AI scanned the data. There's a power relay station near the southern gate. It controls the main shield generators. If we disable it, the barriers will fall for a short time. Scifi smiled. Then that's where we'll strike. She began to plan the attack. The ship's small cargo base still held some old escape pods. Scifi decided to use them as makeshift assault craft. She programmed the navigation and targeting systems for a surprise strike. I'll pilot one pod. You guide me in, she said to the AI. Understood, Echo 9 replied. This mission is risky, but it may be our best chance. Scifi suited up, the weight of the armor and helmet was familiar and comforting. She felt ready. The assault pods launched silently from the Aegis Ravager. Scifi's pod darted through the nebula, heading straight for the relay station. Her hands moved quickly over the controls. Energy shields flickered ahead. Laser turrets rotated slowly, scanning the skies. Keep low. Use the asteroid shadows, Echo 9 instructed. Scifi maneuvered the pod expertly, dodging beams and missiles. Her heart pounded as she closed the distance near the relay station. She saw guards patrolling the platform, robots with heavy weapons and sensors. She activated the pod's stealth mode, making her almost invisible to sensors. Slowly, she landed. The pod near the control panel. She opened the hatch and stepped out. The air was cold and sharp. Her boots made no sound on the metal surface. She moved quickly to the panel. It was locked with alien codes, but she had studied the AI's data. Her fingers flew over the interface. Beep, beep. Click. The shields flickered and went dark. Back on the Aegis Ravager, Echo 9 confirmed the success. Shields down. Main barriers offline for 5 minutes. Scifi's voice was calm. Good. Now it's time to get inside. She jumped back into the pod, started the engines, and fired a small missile at a nearby turret. Destroying it, the pod accelerated towards the base's main entrance. Inside, Scifi saw soldiers rushing to their stations. Alarms blared. She fired the pod's weapons at control towers and energy conduits, causing chaos. The Aegis Ravager followed, launching rail cannon strikes on the base's outer walls. The battle had begun. Scifi's plan was simple: destroy the AI production lab and steal any data they could. As she moved deeper into the base, Echo 9 fed her live maps and enemy positions. Watch out, security bots approaching from the left. Serafini turned and fired. Sparks flew as metal crashed against her weapons. She fought fiercely, but the bots were relentless. Suddenly, she heard a loud explosion behind her. The pod shook. Warning, core reactor breach detected. Time to finish this, Serafini said. Pushing forward, finally, she reached the lab. The door was massive and sealed with heavy locks. She hacked the system quickly. The door hissed. Open. Inside, machines hummed with life. Rows of AI cores, like the one she had found on her ship, lined the walls. She began downloading data onto her portable drive. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. Stop right there. Serafini turned. Captain Aldrin stepped out from the shadows, flanked by armed soldiers. So, you made it, he said, cold and angry. Serafini stood tall. You betrayed me. You betrayed humanity. Aldrin smiled darkly. You were weak. I did what was needed to win. Serafini raised her weapon. This ends now. Serafini's eyes locked on Captain Aldrin's cold gaze. The hum of machines filled the lab around them. The air was thick with tension. You betrayed your own crew, she said quietly. You abandoned me to die alone. Aldrin's smile was bitter. Survival is not about loyalty. It's about power. Serafini raised her weapon steadily. Then power ends here. The soldiers stepped forward, weapons ready. Serafini's pulse quickened. But she held her ground. She wasn't the scared engineer left behind anymore. She was the storm that came back. Echo 9's voice echoed softly in her earpiece. Backup systems engaged. Shields at 40%. Rail cannons ready. Serafini smiled inside. She had the advantage. With a sudden move, she fired a blast from her sidearm. The nearest soldier dropped. The others scrambled for cover. She ran toward the control panel. Her fingers flew over the keys, locking the lab doors. The soldiers were trapped. Aldrin growled. You think this will stop me? Serafini didn't answer. She focused on downloading the last of the data. Files containing Zarkith weapon designs, defectors lists, and plans for the next attack. Aldrin charged at her, but she was faster. She sidestepped and fired again. The bullet grazed his arm, forcing him back. The lab shook suddenly. Outside, the Aegis Ravager fired its rail cannons at the base's power nodes. Explosions rippled through the complex. Serafini looked up. The walls trembled. Time was running out, Echo 9. How long until extraction? She asked. 2 minutes, the AI replied. She grabbed the data drive and ran to the exit. The doors hissed open. Outside, smoke and fire filled the air. Aldrin followed, limping but determined. He raised his weapon. You can't escape. Serafini didn't stop. She sprinted toward the escape pod bay. Behind her, soldiers were grouped, firing. Blindly, she jumped into a pod and slammed the hatch shut. The pod launched with a sharp jolt. The Aegis Ravager hovered nearby, waiting. Serafini piloted the pod through the debris and fire. The base was falling apart. Her hands shook. But her mind was clear. She locked onto the Aegis Ravager. The pod docked smoothly. She climbed out, carrying the precious data. Echo 9, plot course for home base. She said, course locked. The AI replied. As the pod sealed behind her. She felt relief wash over her. Days later, back at Terran Resistance headquarters, Serafini stood before a group of leaders and soldiers. The data she brought was real. It proved the Zarkith plans and the betrayal from within. She spoke calmly, but with strength. They left me to die, but I survived. I reclaimed the ship and the truth. Her words echoed through the room. The resistance cheered. Serafini looked out at the stars from the base's observation deck. The war was far from over, but hope burned brighter than ever. She placed a hand on the console. We will fight. We will win. Echo 9's voice whispered beside her. Humanity adapts. Humanity survives. She smiled. The Aegis Ravager was no longer a forgotten ship. It was a symbol of strength, of resilience, of vengeance.